Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we'll explore top 10 Spring Boot annotations. So if you are fresher or experienced, you should aware of these annotations. So these annotations will play major role in the Spring Boot projects. Without further delay, let's get started. So in Spring Boot, we have so many annotations, but as for this video, we'll discuss top 10 annotations. These annotations we'll use every day in Spring Boot projects. So our first annotation is annotation Spring Boot application. So it is the most important annotation. So this will help to create production ready application very quickly. This annotation comes with combination of three annotations. That is annotation Spring Boot configuration, annotation component scan, and annotation enable auto configuration. Annotation Spring Boot configuration is a specialized of annotation configuration annotation. So this Spring Boot configuration indicating that this class can be used by the Spring IOC container as a source of bin definitions. Enable auto configuration, it will enables the auto configuration mechanism on Spring Boot project as per the dependencies what we have added into Spring Boot project. And component scan, this tells Spring to scan this current package and its sub packages for Spring components, configurations and services. And second annotation RestController. So these annotation will use to creating the REST APIs. So these annotation will do accept the request coming from Spring Boot project and it will return response back to the client. So it will send the response as a JSON or XML. So again, this annotation REST controller will use in the class level and it will comes with combination of two annotations, that is annotation controller and annotation response body. So it is already having annotation response body, so we no need to specify explicitly annotation response body to send response back to the client. So this is the third annotation in the list, that is annotation request mapping. So this annotation request mapping we can use class level or method level. So this annotation will use it to map web requests to specific handler methods in controller classes. So you can create the multiple APIs with different kind of HTTP request methods like get mapping, post mapping, delete mapping, put mapping, or patch mapping. So all the incoming HTTP requests should be handled based on the URL pattern. And next annotation is annotation transactional. So these annotations will use to perform the transaction operations. So what is the transactions means? If you want to perform the multiple operations as a one single operations, there we can mark this complete operation as one transaction. So if you see this example here, we are performing two operations as a combination of one single transaction. If any one of the operation is failed, we'll roll back complete transaction. If both operations are successful, then only we'll mark that operation as successful operation and we'll complete the complete transaction. So if you are not using annotation transactional, then we need to write so much code to handle this. process. So using this annotation transactional, all this boilerplate code we no need to write. Spring Boot will take care for those boilerplate code. So transactions are a critical part of the applications to ensure data integrity and consistency. So explicitly when dealing with multiple database operations, it is very important. So these annotation transactions, we can use the method level. And coming to another annotation, that is annotation configuration. This annotation configuration will use again class level. So why we are using this annotation configuration? So to set up the environment, we are not perform any kind of business logic inside the configuration classes, but we need to make sure to do the some setup for the operations. So let's take example if you are dealing with MySQL database. In this case, we need to add all the database configuration in the properties file at the time of performing the database operation. It will read the data from the properties file and it will create the connection and it will do the persistence operation. In the same way, if we want to add the multiple databases configuration into in your Spring Boot application, there we need to create the configuration class. In the configuration class, we need to define the multiple database configurations. So we can define using annotation configuration on the class level. So and also if you are dealing with any external REST APIs, also if you want to call those APIs, we need to deal with REST template. So in this case, we need bean object from the REST template. So we need to use annotation bean inside the configuration class to get the object for that particular service or class. And if you see the next annotation is annotation bean. So where we are using most of the times in the configuration classes, we'll use most of the time this annotation beans. Define those class inside the configuration class and it will create the bean and it will register this bean with bean registry. Next annotation is annotation component scan. So this annotation component scan, it will scan all the packages inside the applications. So we need to specify which package you want to scan using the base packages. So if you want to define the multiple packages using the base package, you can define multiple packages also. And if you don't want to read any specific packages also, you can use exclude filter to remove those packages at the time of scanning those packages. Here if you see, we are using exclude filters and include filters to perform the operations. Other annotation value. So this annotation value we are using to read the property values from the application dot properties. So using the annotation value and we need to use this format to read the value from the application dot properties. Again, these things we can use inside the configuration class at the time of configuring the database URL, username, password, data source properties. One of the most annotation widely used in Spring Boot project, that is annotation Autowired. This annotation will use to perform the dependency injection. So Spring Boot will support constructor, setter and field level dependency injection. So if you observe this code, we are using annotation Autowire at setter method. So it will perform the setter injection on this class. Or the same way, if you see this piece of code here, we are using annotation Autowire on the field level. So it will perform the field level dependency injection. And here we are using annotation Autowire as a constructor level. So here it will perform the operation as constructor dependency injection. So also it will perform the loose coupling between the objects. Here we are not explicitly creating any dependency. We are not creating any dependency here. So all these are automatically Spring Boot IOC container will create the object and it will gives us. And if you see, these are the three stereotype annotations, that is annotation controller, annotation service, and annotation repository. So instead of using these three types of annotations, we can use annotation component also. But these three annotations we are making the class level as a specific region. So if you are making class level using annotation controller, that class will become that controller class. It will accept the request and it will send response back to the client. So in the future, if anyone seen that class level as annotation controller, so you can able to easily understand this is a controller class. We need to create the APIs from this class. At the same way, if we are using annotation service at the class level, so it is clearly saying that this class will use to creating the business logic for that application. And another annotation is annotation repository. If we are using annotation repository, so in the interface level, we can use this is mocking that one as a repository class, and it will convert all the SQL exceptions into the DO exceptions. So whenever anyone seen this class, they can easily able to understand what is the use of that class and what kind of code we need to write inside those class. It is easy to understand. So if your project is having huge classes, if you are using all the classes as an annotation component, it is very difficult to identify where we need to write the business logic, which class is playing what kind of role. It is very difficult to understand. These three annotations came into the picture as a stereotype annotations. And this is another annotation component. So this is also widely used annotation in all the Spring Boot projects. So what it will do? So this annotation components make class as a Spring Bean. This enables the class to detect through class path scanning and automatically register as a bean in the Spring application context. Whenever it is identifying the class path, it automatically creates the bean and this bean will register with bean registry. If we are not specifying annotation component in the class level, then again it will treat it as normal class only and it will won't get all the features related to that Spring Bean. So these are all widely used Spring Boot annotation in everyday in the Spring Boot projects. I hope this video is helpful for you. Please like, share and subscribe my channel.